Venezuela is a country under attack. It is under attack by the international oil and weapon conglomerates, but also the country's opposition, who is fighting the democratically elected government of President Chávez. Being the fourth largest oil producer in the world, any political move by the Venezuelan government is closely watched by Washington. The New York Times described the oil-rich Venezuela, one of the most important oil suppliers to the United States, and the popular President Chávez as one of the targets of the Bush administration. When President Chávez decided to replace most of the management of the state-owned oil company PDVSA in order to regain control of the country's oil resources, things got out of hand. Mass demonstrations turned violent when oppositional groups clashed with Chavistas. Metropolitan police, siding with the opposition and snipers, killed more than 35 people in the afternoon hours of 11th of April 2002.
No me lo suba.
Artículo 3º. Se suspende de sus cargos a los diputados principales y suplentes a la Asamblea Nacional.
Later, in the evening hours of 11th April, President Chávez was forced out of office by a gang headed by Pedro Carmona. Certainly sound like a conspiracy theory, if not a coup has been orchestrated by the opposition in close cooperation with the Bush White House. While the new government inaugurated themselves, thousands and later millions of people gathered in the streets of Caracas to protest.
Con mi voto, yo voté por Chávez y yo quiero que Chávez termine su mandato, porque si esto es democracia, debe dársele respeto a las leyes.
Así nos cuesta la vida, pero queremos que él esté aquí.
Este es nuestro sueño, por nuestros hijos, queremos a nuestro presidente.
Washington, as well as the opposition, miscalculated the situation, and once the Palacio Miraflores had been taken by loyal troops, the legitimate government regrouped and organized to rescue the president, as he could have faced the fate of President Allende of Chile in 1973.
Hemos querido y tratamos de hacer algo que otros pueblos no alcanzaron, una revolución por causas distintos, de acuerdo a nuestra historia, a nuestra tradición y a nuestra realidad.
2 days after he was ousted from power, President Chávez returned to Palacio Miraflores.
Por Dios, reflexionen, pero de una vez, que este país también es de ustedes. Yo también tengo que reflexionar muchas cosas. Y me traigo lecciones aquí y aquí, que no voy a olvidar, de tanto pensar, de tanta angustia, de tanto dolor, de tanta incertidumbre. Así que vengo dispuesto a rectificar donde tenga que rectificar, pero no solo debo ser yo el rectificador. Todos tenemos que rectificar muchas cosas para que volvamos a la calma, al trabajo, al empuje y a la construcción de la Venezuela bolivariana.
After President Carlos Andrés Pérez in 1976 nationalized the Venezuelan oil production, it took the PDVSA management only a short time to establish a complex system of transfer pricing in which PDVSA played the role of an umbrella company. International acquisitions enabled the numerous daughter companies to yield profits from the Venezuelan state. By this system, PDVSA technically does not produce a single barrel of oil, and by these means can evade taxes. When Andrés Pérez became president again in 1989, he launched the so-called Apertura, privatizations during this Latin American glasnost, along with neoliberal symptoms, led into disaster in the early 90s. Being the fifth largest oil producer and one of the founding nations of OPEC, Venezuela relies on oil, although the state who owns but does not control most of the oil industry does not get most of the revenues. Although PDVSA was and is still owned by the state, the complicated system of offshore daughter companies of PDVSA lead to constantly increasing flight of capital and revenues from oil production outside the country. That's why the state's pockets were empty. While the political establishment and rich class sensed that the impertinent theft of the country's resources created more and more resistance, they got comfortable with Chavez, whom they believed to be just another social democrat who was pleasing the people while not really attacking them. In the end, they had to learn that in fact this man was not only talking leftist and would not only calm the masses, but was serious. That's when the PDVSA elite realized that he posed a threat to their corrupt system. So there seems to be no alternative but to accept that a huge amount of the profits from the oil production feed the rich North American and European companies and not the people of Venezuela. In December 2002, the oil industry went on strike, leading the country's economy into a sharp recession as all production came to a halt and all wheels stood still. Sabotage acts committed by the management and unions made it almost an impossible task for a group of workers who tried hard to revive the oil production in order to prevent the worst for the already embattled economy.